now tuned in to the Free Play Media Podcast Network.
We're live, and live we are. Travis just got excited because he used to bring us in all the time, but on the Uncensored podcast,
he stole the only reason why I'm on this podcast.
Yeah, you're the intro guy. Yeah, there's no conversation. So we're here today. Special episode. Our pal Chris Garlich is here from Presence Float Center. You've heard us talk about it. The code WAL will save you $10 at Presence. And we're not talking about Travis's like Sunday float style thing. No. We're not talking about my bush light, hit the river, float, sensory deprivation. We can talk about that, but wanted to say, hey, Chris, good to have you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Exciting. Chris is a better version of us, Travis. He's white and he's in shape, so he's better than me.
He's got you beat there. He has a better beard.
Bald with a badass beard.
Yeah,
so that's where he beats you. My beard still, it's not even, you can't even bring it into the conversation with Chris's. It's aspiring to be his beard.
Your beard would be the equivalent of Grown Ups 2. It was like, so it'd be like, oh, you know, I see what they try to do
his
there.
movie's Coming to America.
His beard is Coming to America. Yours is Grown Ups 2.
It's Grown Ups 2. Falls flat on its face, despite some decent people being involved with it.
My beard is The Jerk. It's like, that was really funny, but I only think it's funny to a certain group of people in America. Like, so my beard is only special to a handful of people. That's why.
We've got...
This is it, folks.
Are you happy with this? Right?
We're talking about beards.
Yeah. So we're wanting to let people know. So you're an interesting guy, and we thought, hey, let's have a fucking conversation with Chris from Presence Float Center. We can talk about that. We were just having a really good conversation about high school football. You're from the area. You went to CBC.
Yeah.
Played football at CBC.
Played football and lacrosse. Yeah.
Is it? Man, are kids as tougher, more talented today than they were whenever you were there?
Couldn't
so you played. So okay, have you gotten to see some high school sports?
No, I haven't.
Don't you coach?
I coach lacrosse.
Lacrosse.
Right? I just got back into that this year, and football is football's foreign to me. I haven't been back to that, but I intend to kind of get back there. I heard they got a good team this year. So
yeah,
what's the
CBC
mindset
high
of these
school
guys though? I feel like I
just mean youth in general too. Yeah, you've got kids coming in the float center.
I worked with high school kids, and I think the only thing that blew me away was their mindset towards everything. Like, I wouldn't say it was a complete 180 to when we were in high school, but a lot had changed. And I guess I wouldn't consider myself an older person, but I didn't anticipate that much changing in the culture in that short of time frame.
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it, it's all technology based, right? So they all got these damn cell phones and they're fucking Snapchatting all the time, and it's a constant barrage, and they don't know anything else. Where we do, we were texting on, typing the number 3 times to get to the letter.
It took you 25 minutes to send K.
Right, and our parents had bag phones. That was the cool deal. I remember my grandpa drove a Mazda Millennia, and he had a bag phone. And I was like, what is this shit? But yeah, these kids nowadays, they got it all. I mean, we all do, right? And it ties into, distraction, right? So I think these kids are distracted. I think we all are distracted. And that was one of the intents of creating Presence Float Center,
right?
Because that therapy, right, flotation therapy is it isolates yourself, right? And you're left alone, and you're left alone with just your thoughts. So you may have 4 or 5 things running through your head at any given moment. You get in that tank, and after 75 minutes, you come out and you're all those wheels that are turning, they're all synced up, they're all running the same speed, and you feel right as rain. So
considering how busy people can get in their lives, and considering how much we put on our own plates, like, people truly don't understand how valuable that isolation time is.
You tell people about these floats in the tanks and everything, people are like, floating, which it's been a concept for a little while now, but I get it. Things take a little while, especially reach the Midwest. I mean, it's been popular in California. I mean, Joe Rogan has made this damn thing a serious industry, I believe that. But people are genuinely afraid of alone time with themselves now, which is crazy. And it's not just people with high forms of ADD or anything like that. That truly need 3 or 4 outlets to kind of focus on things. You talk to people with anxiety and different issues, or just people I would consider normal in quotes that are like, I don't know, an hour doing nothing, and I'm like, you need that.
Yeah, no,
you need to unplug.
And I tell you, it's people will drive themselves into the ground, right?
Yes.
And they will be unaware of that need until they hit a breaking point, right?
Right.
And it's everybody's at a different level. Everybody's on their own path, and everybody breaks at a different level, right? But if you are wound up and stuff's not going the way that you planned it, and you just can't. It's like you're treading water, and you don't know. It's probably an indication that you need to hit a reset, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think when we went in together, I wouldn't
Separate
go as
pods.
far
Separate pods,
with
folks.
allegedly
Yeah.
speaking, whatever.
Right.
But when I went into the pod,
Interracial gangbang and
Right.
pod number 2.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that's that.
Don't
What,
use pod
what
2, folks.
package is that? I want
Right.
that one. No, but when
Don't
I
say
went
package
in,
while we're
I
talking about
no,
this.
that's really bad. I wouldn't go as
It was
far
like a
as to
yin
say it
yang
was-
sign, folks. They were like inverted.
People are
Inverted
googling this
69.
right now. I was like, so they do exist. I wouldn't say that it was as emotional as the solar eclipse was for a lot of people.
He's so pissed. He's so pissed at the solar eclipse. He's
I'm
calling
not
this
pissed at the solar
hashtag white
eclipse.
interest is what he's
I
calling it.
wasn't pissed at the solar eclipse. I was pissed at everyone's reaction to the solar eclipse. But with that being said, I will say though, getting into that pod was relatively emotional in that you're right, getting like disconnecting from your bullshit.
Right.
One, it's difficult, but once you do it, it gives you, I feel like, a appreciation for where you presently are in life.
Sure.
So, like in that pod, I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to be in the moment.
Right.
This is what it feels like not to worry about what's happening in the next minute or the next 20 minutes, but what's happening right now. And I think a lot of people really underestimate that.
Yeah, I mean, we get all walks of life coming through the door, right? And so
Yes.
it's a fascinating it's fascinating to see the different walks of life and interacting with those people, and then getting feedback from them after they float, and then as they come through and do it a few more times, you start to develop a relationship with them, and it is it's a wonderful tool,
Right.
to help you navigate. And I like to tell people, there's a compass in all of us, right?
Right.
And that compass needs to be maintained, just like you need to change the oil in your car, right?
Right.
Or you need to put new tires on it, or you need to do the brake job, right? I mean, you got to maintain it, and so you got to do things that are healthy to do that. And I think, the visual that I would use for people is flotation therapy is like recalibrating the compass. Right.
I like that.
And so when you get that compass recalibrated, you can start to understand, what direction you need to go when there's a fork in the road, or,
Right.
or when you're on your path and you get presented some issue, you can make an appropriate decision. And
What clientele have you seen the most? Without giving too much, I don't want to give too much of your.
Well, there's no
people's-
HIPAA requirements for
So-
floating, but
But no, I would
Chris,
imagine
we need social security numbers and health conditions of everybody.
But what do you see? More lawyers, police officers? I mean, everyone's job has some high level of stress, I would imagine. So I'm curious as to what occupation seems to be the one that shows up the most.
Yeah, and the spectrum's wide. When I went to Town and Country and settled on that location, I figured, okay, I'm going to get a bunch of West County housewives. Right?
Yeah.
It's not really the case.
Right.
I mean, that's definitely a part of who comes in, but everybody comes in. I mean, the demographic of people that I see on the data from marketing is
Right.
25 to 44, and our age people. Right. It's probably
Right.
the same people that are listening to this radio.
Right.
I'm much
podcast
younger
right now.
than the two of you.
How old
but
are you?
33.
Oh yeah, you're super young.
Travis is 33. Has me beat by like 6 months.
To
To be fair, Chris is
I'm 35. We're all
physically
the same age.
more physically attractive.
And according to
than
Time Magazine, we're still millennials. So that
Right.
counts.
How
Are
do
we
you feel
really?
about
I
that?
thought we were Gen
Yeah.
Xers.
I think we're like
No, you were like in high school with some Gen Xers, but we would have also been in high school together too.
Yeah.
you were maybe you're a millennial, man.
Yeah, they always told me I was an old soul, so I just identify it as a Gen Xer. I identify as a male also. I think that needs to be clarified in today's day.
I like that we're living in the area where we now have to honestly come out and classify what we are. Like,
it's
like
getting a little
literally
out of
we
hand.
have to. I feel like everyone's going to start putting this in their social media bios. I hate Nazis. Like I feel like you have to like come out and verbalize a lot of this in order to operate in 2017. Sir, where are you going? I like that part in your hair, but are you a Nazi?
Right. It's like,
That was like
listen,
a Bane voice.
just speak. Yes.
Foul. Chris, are you a Nazi?
And that's the thing too, where it's just because Jeff looks like he could have been an extra on Sons of Anarchy doesn't mean that that's what he watches every week on Netflix.
I was expecting to walk in here with Ed Norton Jr. from American History X here. That
would be an odd, like you would if that was the case and he had a float tank as a thing, it would be he'd have a real weird list like it's for cleansing.
Ish.
But yeah, that's what we're doing. So. Man, so what's been the most surprising thing, I guess, as far as that? Because, again, talented guy, and I see how you work your marketing. So whenever you picture, this is just from the top level, you would think of maybe somebody lighting Nag Champa all over the place. You have a guy from the car industry who they're the most talented or at least the most organized about marketing with customers and data and specifics, things like that. So you're applying data to this, you're paying attention. What has been, I don't know, either the most surprising or most overwhelming thing about specifically starting a float tank facility?
Well, I didn't plan for any growth. I figured I figured it was like Kevin Costner in the Field of Dreams, right? If you build it, they will float, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And that wasn't the case. So I was, I kind of had to readjust some stuff to get along. But the build out of it was interesting. That was a whole 3 months worth of headaches and just constant toe stubbings and trying to figure out how to navigate through all that stuff. And
Were there any issues with, I don't even know would it be the city of Town and Country?
No, St. Louis Town and Country was wonderful, but St. Louis County, they hit me up with
health issues, I assume.
It wasn't health, it was electrical. And so the pods that we use are not UL listed, right? And so the guy comes through on his final inspection, and I got, I got water and salt. I mean, I'm ready to operate. And the guy goes, "What's your UL listing?" And I go, "What's UL?"
7.
Yeah. I go, where do I find that?
I'm gonna
right?
say W.
So that delayed us a month and an inspection, a rushed inspection for a guy to fly out there and justify the bill, and we got open after that. But it was I'm glad that chapter's over, and I'm glad we're in operations.
Do you feel like this is a weird question? I'm not trying to frame it or be a dick to anybody either. Do you feel like in 2017, or when did you start? 2015?
December of last year. So
16. Do you feel like it's a good climate to open a business?
I don't have any reference.
Yeah.
Right. So I wouldn't be able to respond.
And it's what you wanted and believed in.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
passionate
when it becomes
about
like
it,
a
right?
life. You're very passionate. Yeah.
That's the whole point of it. It doesn't feel like work to me, right? So all the bullshit that I got to go through to open a place up and all the fucking headaches that I got to deal with in operations, it doesn't wear me out, right? Because I'm pointed in one direction and I believe in the deal, and I've witnessed it in my life, so I know it can help other people, and there's a lot of magic in that for me. Right?
Describe that dance though, because Chris and we have done and we're currently still doing the small business dance, and it's one, as you just mentioned, fueled with passion. It's the reason why we're doing this, because we give a shit and it's something we really want to do. But there's always that dance, and as you just mentioned, dealing with the county and dealing with stubbing your toe type of issues. How do you find the right balance, or how do you get? I guess the better question is, how do you mentally prepare yourself to go through those challenges, knowing they're likely on the horizon because you're a small business owner?
Yeah, and there's in the build out, right? There was plenty of hurdles to overcome, right? But after I jumped over a few hurdles, right? I started to get comfortable with it, and I started to realize I was on this fucking roller coaster, right? Where I'd be flying high one day, and then the next day I was getting kicked in the nuts, right? but it didn't matter as long as I just understood, it's just one big cycle, right? So you don't get attached to the lows and you don't get attached to the highs, and you just understand it's just fucking put it on a list and work through it, and when you're done with it, you cross that shit off, right?
Yeah.
And it's one foot in front of the other. And if you can keep it simple like that in anything in life, you'll be successful, right? And presence is at the keystone of how I want to live my life, right? I've recognized that if I can live moment to moment to moment to moment to moment, right, with good intent and with good mojo,
right,
when I look back after 30 years or 40 years of living that way,
right,
I'm gonna have lived a really, really well life.
How much easier is life now? Like even like I said, you obviously have your challenges.
So let's go day to day.
But how much? Yeah, how much?
You keep yourself in good shape. Assume you work out.
Yeah,
you work out. Eliminated drugs, alcohol.
Yeah, been sober for 5 years.
Sober. I think that's a big part. Has to be too.
It is. There's a lot of clarity that comes from that, right? And especially early on in that, there's a lot of clarity in that. But there's you start to become aware and be conscious of, why you do those things, right? Why I would choose to numb out and not feel, right? And I still work through that, right? And I'm going to work through that for the rest of my life. That's never going to stop. So, and that's where I would get overwhelmed with the anxiety of trying to process through that stuff, right?
In a cutthroat industry too,
in the car business, right?
Yeah,
right. So surrounded by
surrounded
by real
real sharks.
Yeah, I mean,
and not saying people are terrible or anything, but that's the mindset you have,
right? That's who's in that business. I mean, the business itself is very self-centered all the way around. You got the manufacturer that's just absolutely fucking everybody. You got the
that is so true. I've done some automobile manufacturing marketing,
super
and I'm just
bitter about that. But
talking to those people, you're just like, is this a movie?
Yeah.
Are you real?
You got the customers that are super defensive and don't want to get fucked or scared to death of getting fucked. And then you got the salespeople that are in the middle that are not realizing they're doing the fucking, but they're just following orders to get paid, right? And, I mean, it's just a big fuck fest all the way around, right?
Yeah.
So, one of the things that's cool about technology now and information as readily as it is, it's not so much of a fuck fest anymore, right? So
how since we're on the topic, like something like a True Car, or just the research that you can do, you can see if someone's advertising certain things.
Yeah.
Is there some honor within because if Joe Smith Toyota throws the prices down to a certain mark, that's going to affect the market.
Yeah,
that could be a domino effect. Or is there honor amongst those dealerships a little bit or is it all just based on like, listen, this is what people will pay for this, and we figured it out?
Yeah, so we took an integrity approach, in the way that we priced our stuff. So all the new cars got a specific discount. I mean, we went and go, how cheap can we sell these cars? How much money can we lose to sell the cars, right? We're going to price all of our cars that way, right? And we take the same approach with the used cars, and we'd say we had software that would specific radius, and we'd find all the used cars that were out like this specific model, and we'd price it aggressively. So when a customer came in and said, I think you're too high and want to negotiate, we'd just say, in a nice way, go fuck yourself. What's that?
We're in the no, we can keep recording. It's fine.
You just want the phone to go?
I think it
like
adds to the ambiance.
It adds it. Okay.
Take that call, Travis.
I'm not answering that damn phone.
That's Nissan calling, telling me to shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
no, that's what I'm afraid someone's going to say.
This is what happens. So we're usually at Shock City. They're booked up today. We're in a side studio, which actually it's comfortable in here. We should paint the walls like a cool color, like green, like Chris's shirt, and make this like a trendy little spot.
I felt very important when that phone rang.
Yeah, as you sit in the big boy chair. Hang on, fellas. Let me interrupt the podcast. No, I think I like leaving that in there.
Okay,
some
that's
authenticity.
Fine. You're like, oh man, this show is raw, man. They had like ringing phones in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
Edgy.
Yeah, and he's even sipping coffee. I just had tea, diet green citrus tea. No, so the car industry is a weird industry.
Yeah, and it's evolved, right?
Right.
So the integrity of the experience is valued, right? So if a customer would come in and say, "Hey, I want to offer you $2,000 off your price," we'd shake their hand and go, "It's no thanks. We'll have the next. We know we know where we're priced, and we know that the guy coming in behind you is going to pay what we're asking, right?
Right.
So if you want to go shop around, feel free to do it, right?
Because it's not out there.
We know it's not out there,
But
right?
okay, so
Just
what
like
about the walk off the lot?
What about it?
I mean, how it's effective sometimes, right?
To walk off the lot?
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you feel like there's meat on the bone, you're a customer, and you feel like you can do
There's
better,
room. Yeah.
take a hike.
No,
But do your research.
Now, I'm
you
in
do
the middle
Yeah.
of this process of researching new cars to purchase. So I'm curious now, with that being said.
You got a guy, Chris?
I got a lot of guys.
Oh,
I got a lot of guys. I got a lot of guys.
Say,
This is a pretty loaded question, but yeah.
I'm about to say, well, yeah, and that's the funny thing. Like in St. Louis, when it comes to having guys, I was like, I think everyone's
I just want to know
good.
who's giving you the best finder's fee.
Well, no, I'm
That's
just-
what I'm saying.
I don't even collect bird
Well, then
dogs.
I guess I'm a
Really?
little bit. I guess I'm just curious as to, has the approach of walking off the lot ever worked? Have you seen it work?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Okay,
and we
okay.
and
I
I,
don't know. I've always
and
thought I would have the balls to do it. I was like,
and
I don't think I can.
I can remember learning how to sell cars, right? I was 18 years old on Lee May Ferry Road, selling Hyundais, right?
Nice.
And I'm, following instructions, right? And I'm lying to the people, not even realize I'm lying to the people, right?
Right.
And the people will leave, and then the 50-year-old car dog that's been doing it 30 years goes and chases them out on the lot, right, and closes up a deal, right? And I mean that's how I learned, right? And so you talk about integrity. I'm very versed in the different levels of integrity and how to interpret truth, right?
I think at least now you're in a business where it's like, no. You tell people a story, and either they want to come relax, and buy in, or they don't, and that's perfectly fine. Obviously, we want people to go check it out. Promo code WAL.
WAL.
$10 off. But it's got to, I want to get to, again, the hustle never stops. The work never stops to a degree, but to at least believe in what you're peddling.
Sure.
And for it to, especially something like floating, for it to truly help people. You can sit here, you say it yourself, you kind of just got to do it. Right? Yeah. That's the first thing you had me do whenever we found each other to potentially work together. You got to come do it. There's no amount of BS. If it doesn't work for you, well then, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it truly does help too. And the 4 hours of deep sleep thing that it's close to, like, that's crazy.
It's interesting, right? We've done over 3,000 of floats since we've been open, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm 100% positive and say this: you will feel great after you float.
Sure.
100%, right? Everyone feels great. What goes on during the float itself, the 75 minutes that you're in that pod, that's subjective. And that's a function of whatever's going on in your life. And it's different every time you do it. So I'll have, I've probably done it a couple hundred times, right?
Right.
And it's sometimes I'll, have hallucinations. How do I say it right? I'll have visions. It's not coming out of my mouth, right?
Yeah,
right?
you disconnect and your mind goes somewhere else.
And it'll be a mind blower, kind of like, taking psychedelics, right? Mm-hmm. And have this immense clarity, like, and awareness of problems that I didn't even know were there. And sometimes it'll just be like, it was fucking average, right?
Right.
But afterwards, I feel great, right? And I feel reset and I feel relaxed. And after you do it a few times and you start to, incorporate it in your routine, there's some interesting things that start to happen to you, right? You can deflect a lot of bullshit, and you don't get caught up in that craziness that you used to, get caught up in.
We're not talking about a magic pill or some it could be this or it could be that. You're essentially just tapping into rest.
Babe, it's Epsom salt and fucking water.
Right.
It's that simple, right? 900 pounds of it, right? Don't think you could do this in your bathtub, but that's all it is.
Yeah.
When would be the better time, you think, for someone to do it? Before they go into something stressful or after coming out of something stressful?
It is, I like to do it after.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah,
I like to do it
It's
after.
kind of like the hot cold thing, like before a basketball game, keep it hot for your ankle, and then after ice it because you want it up and moving.
Don't do it before a basketball game.
Right.
Don't, if you're
You're
gonna
gonna be like, I don't know, man. You can just score. It's cool.
You feel a little stony afterwards. You're not as sharp as you should be afterwards. So it's not that's not something you want to be doing right afterwards. Yeah.
Trav, that answer your question?
No, I've been curious just for when I've been recommending it to my friends, as far as going out to the float center. what they should prepare for, or when would be a good time for them to go.
Here's the line you use.
Okay.
At worst, you get to not be bothered for an hour. And you're very comfortable.
That's been my pitch, especially to my parents. I go, literally, you don't have to talk to anyone.
It is
for
amazing.
an entire hour. And when you have like multiple children, 4, 5, 6, 7 kids, when you can tell a parent, hey, seriously, you get 75 minutes of total silence.
Right.
That like, oh, go on.
Right.
So that's how I pitched it to the parents. Now, again, I am a brother. And I was slightly afraid because I did not know how deep that water was going to be. But after doing it, guys, it is good to go. If you are an African American and you're trying to get your float on, I would recommend you do so. You don't have to wear floaties or anything around your waist. The water makes you float, which is a very unique situation. I was very happy about that.
A message to the brothers.
Yes.
For,
come in.
Unfortunately, you cannot listen to any hip hop.
You could.
You could, yeah.
You could. I guess you could, couldn't you?
You could plug your phone in and listen to whatever you want. Yeah.
I like it better. It feels more like a unique experience because maybe, again, if I'm at your level and I'm like, okay, this is my 100 and something, I'm going to try this with rock music today, or I'm going to try this with a podcast today.
Sure.
Maybe I would do that for now, as it's kind of a unique thing. I like keeping it where I'm like kind of playing on your terms.
Right.
You have the massage-esque music going, or
Right.
I guess ambient music
Yeah.
in the background, under the water and everything. I feel like that helps take you to another place.
It
Because if
does,
you're
yeah.
listening to a podcast that you're used to listening to, I don't know, maybe you're kind of still doing the same routine.
Yeah, I would definitely suggest checking out what we run. I mean, there is, with no music, right, and it completely quiet, there is a depth that you get to on the experience. And we provide that option just because we want to give people choices, right? We don't want to dictate what's right or wrong.
Right.
There is no right or wrong in this deal. So if you feel comfortable with it being quiet, you will absolutely get to a deeper level when you float, right?
Yes.
You'll still feel great afterwards, but
Not water depth, Travis.
not water depth. Just
Just mentally.
just mental.
Okay,
maybe
okay.
some emotional. You may cry a little bit.
I was in that pod and I went back to like my childhood for like the final 10 minutes of my time in there.
Right.
And I was like, I can't believe it's over. Like it
Yeah.
had, like when I looked up and that was the session, I was like, I need more. I need to go back in for more. So I absolutely would recommend it. I know a lot of my friends who don't run necessarily small businesses, but they have a ton of responsibilities in their job.
See, the average American has too much stress. I mean,
And that's why I think like this is important in the sense that we've seen people who could use it, and when they don't get some type of mental break, they break.
Right.
And we've been around those family members
even
and
if you
friends
just
who've done just
suck
that.
even if you just suck to be around.
Or
Yeah.
or that. No, but that's
do you
true, but
suck to be
yes.
around? Come float.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
and look, we know there's that friend in the group that's like, hey man, it's similar to the Snickers commercial, but it's a little bit more aggressive. It's like, hey man, eat a Snickers. You being a hoe bitch right now. That's essentially
Now you're
what
just
Wall
being
presents us.
gratuitous
Yeah.
because this is an uncensored podcast.
You hoe bitch.
Hoe bitch is not
Slut.
part of the
It is
Snickers
not even.
advertising.
I'm almost certain
push,
that it is.
I would
close,
tell.
but yeah.
All right, Chris. So we're talking about this. What the hell's going on with Steve Elgin and the changing station crew?
Dude,
Is
that
are the-
guy is a riot.
First of all, we love him.
Absolutely.
And the old Cucky the Dwarf. What in the hell is that? Are they paid marketers for you?
No, not at all.
Dude, they are.
No.
And you know what? I love it because him and Craig
right.
are so passionate about it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I wish every business had 500 of these guys because, man, they're genuine.
Dude,
they're great guys.
And Craig, it's the universe comes together on that story, right?
Hey, Travis, he's trying to.
Sorry.
The universe, man.
Let's-
yeah,
let me
hang on.
put
It
on
just
my-
started smelling like
Here.
Nag Champa again.
Put your Eclipse glasses on, Travis. I know you don't have any, so just look at the wall.
Exactly. I'm gonna blow your mind with some truth, man.
We ran a promo and before we opened up, and we
Yeah.
we had a membership option back then, and we said, we did a promo, and the winner gets a free membership for a year. Craig won the deal, right, randomly, right, and I didn't know who he was, and a few months later,
And they had a radio show at the time.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
I had no idea who the guy was. I know he had a funky mustache, right? So him and Steve came in probably 4 or 5 months later and sat down and said, hey, we want to float and do a podcast. Would you be interested in that? And I go, absolutely. and we kind of broke it down a little bit, and you know, Steve was fucking bouncing off the walls. I mean, he was
As he does.
jacked up, right?
Yeah.
And I'm in the float center, and I got people coming out of their floats, and he's fucking yelling and bouncing and shit. Like, I mean, you got to settle down, babe. So he was jacked up, and Craig, you know, Craig's just got this demeanor about him, and you know, authentic and real, you know, are at the heart of that. And he just had a birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Craig!
Happy birthday!
And yeah, so they came in and we floated and we kicked it afterwards, and I don't think the material that we recorded is out at all. I think we're waiting on some editing, is what I've been told, but. Whatever, when it happens, it happens.
How long did you record it?
It was about 4 months ago. So.
Hey man, I lost the file, man.
Right?
Yeah,
We
that's
interviewed-
tough,
I mean,
man. Dude, that happens. We interviewed this guy. You actually may know him, Shane Moss. He's a comedian, but he also does these scientific,
Psychedelic
he's really into psychedelic drugs.
big
Right.
big time
Psychedelic
like,
comedy,
that's
yeah.
most of his bits are centered around
being
psychedelic
on
drugs.
Pretty
mushrooms.
famous. He's a
Mon-
famous comedian.
famous,
Does
yeah.
TV and stuff. And he came in, and we were at Shock City where we recorded, but the studio got bombarded. But I was like, we're not losing this interview. And he's like, well, hey, I've got my temporary setup if we just want to do that. So it was his fault, but we went into an office, had a really good hour and 10-minute long conversation, which that's a long time for a guy on the road who's
Right.
out, who's not from here.
Right.
And we got the audio, and I think he may have known, because I guess it was a really good conversation, but he didn't say much about it, and he didn't follow up like he said he was. And usually people will follow up if they say that.
Right.
But you could only hear his mic. So it's just him responding to unknown questions for
Right.
an hour and a half or hour and 10 minutes. That's tough. You've been there. And I've had to call a comic back, and she was not happy, and she was not a very good interview. But I had to call her back because I wanted the name on the radio show, and we had to redo it because we hadn't something screwed up in a recording. So hopefully they have the file.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
I've been there.
No, I'm
is
sure
all
they
I'm
do.
saying. Yeah.
I'm sure they do, and it's not like.
Are we recording right now?
About
I
that,
think so.
Chris.
Oh, I would kill you.
No,
really.
If they don't
Yeah,
have it,
it's
they
still
don't
going,
have it.
man. Damn.
I see the green stuff flickering on the screen.
Is the phone call in there?
It's still in
Okay,
there.
it's authentic.
Did you call with your phone? Is that what you
Yeah, I
did?
just wanted to put my little touch on the
Right.
podcast.
Hey, man, this is a street pod, dog. They gonna love these.
Street pod
Oh,
with
look at
Chris
man.
and
Oh, man,
Trav.
that's crazy.
Yes.
Hear a payphone outside, and it's ringing right into the podcast. What do we got? What do we got?
So we're recording this, and someday your conversation with those fellows will be out.
I would hope so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good time. I tell you this. I mean, this podcast stuff this is the first one. You guys are popping my cherry right now.
Nice.
So I just
We're
want to let
gentle.
you know that
We're
you
gentle.
have my card.
Nice.
But
Put a towel down.
But one of the cool things about floating, right, is that after you float, right, you got no ego controlling the deal,
Yep.
right, and so you're real authentic, and so like it's you can connect real easily, and you know, you're not distracted, and so that tone and that energy is pretty cool to listen to. So you know, recording after a float is something that I.
If
like
I
to
was taking a
dive
girl like on
into.
a
Yeah.
date, would that be the thing to do? Like, take her to a float center.
Yeah, it's a
and then,
great
like,
date night.
You just talk afterwards.
I
yeah,
know-
for sure, it's
like,
a great date
I think
night.
I'm gonna do that.
Not even kidding. And I'm weaving another sponsor in. City Chiropractic, getting like if you have back problems, like it's
yeah.
it's over.
Right.
Like your whole
Yeah,
life
Chris
has
has
changed.
been like, I'm now unathletic, but I'm gonna blame the back, and that's a great excuse.
Now I
Yeah,
have no
pull it off.
excuses. I'm just
now he's
fat.
He's just like
So, no, go get your back worked on if you have back issues at City Chiropractic on Hampton, and head out to Presence. After that, you talk about another level of comfort. Our boy Jimmy B is planning a date night for his fiance, where she
Nice.
gets her back adjusted, and then goes and floats, and he won't even be there, and she'll be the happiest she's been in years. I bet.
Do you
Yeah,
like
for
after
sure.
having that combination of an experience? Do you get an erection?
I'm sorry.
It's
you get
easier to get an erection.
Okay.
Right, because the
It's
blood's
easy.
flowing.
You're more susceptible. There's no blockage, right?
There's no block.
Yes.
We
Open up the blockage. I like it.
open it up.
That should be.
Okay, so
that
where
on
do
a
we
t-shirt.
where do we take this from here? Are you going to do multiple locations? You think? If more listeners will start coming in, you might.
Right. Let's go WAL. Use that code for $10 off. We've
See that we're marketing.
I like it.
I would love to open up a couple more. But
Yes.
you know, I right now I'm kind of like a woman that just gave birth. Right, so I'm not really interested in conceiving.
Yeah,
right, at this
like,
moment. Right?
I need a
'Cause
minute.
I'm you know,
Lord knows
I haven't
know.
quite
I'll pull out
healed,
game.
right, from the tearing, right. So
Still working on
the
it.
Stitches are still in.
Right.
dude, the stitches popped 3 months into it, so I'm back.
Yeah. What do your kids think of it?
They've done it once, and
A little too young.
little too young.
Yeah.
Although I had a 13-year-old boy come do it this past weekend, and this kid was definitely bright, very intelligent, you know,
Right.
and then talking with his mom while she waited for him to do his float, you know, that was reinforced in hearing about him.
You know why he was acting that way? Because she's a good parent. You're saying, right?
Yeah, I would label her as a good parent.
Well,
for the
I don't-
hour
I
and a
don't
half
always-
that I got to talk to her, but yeah.
Right.
But so the kid does it. He's 13 years old, and typically 13-year-old boys are 13-year-old boys, right? And they're not really interested in being quiet for an hour,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But the kid made the appointment himself, right?
Oh,
Under
wow.
the mom's name, right? And I learned that. I'm like, okay, well, this kid's gonna, you know, he's gonna drink the Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
He wants to do it. This isn't mom like saying, I'm gonna put my.
need to
I'm
go
gonna
chill out.
Right, I'm gonna try to find the solution
Right.
for my fucking problems about what I think my kid's doing.
Yeah.
So, but you know, the girls, you know, 13 to 15, that age of girl, it's a real nice time frame in their lives to kind of tap into what this can do for you.
Right.
The boys, you know, I let the lacrosse players that I coach, I let them come in and do it. And I think that, you know, the 17, 18-year-old boy is probably the right time frame to get them introduced to what's going on in the float pod, you know, and yeah. But I think back to when I was that age, if I had this shit available to me,
Oh yes.
fuck, it'd be a different story for me, right?
Change your
think-
life.
Not that I have any regrets of where I'm at right now,
Right.
right? But it would definitely be a different path.
No, and I think a lot of times, especially like I said, again, dealing with a lot of these 17, 18-year-olds now, I will say one thing that is consistent, that was consistent when we were in high school, is that there are still tons of pressures and burdens that go along with being obviously a teenager, and you have expectations for yourself. Others have expectations for you.
Yeah.
So it's important, I think, especially when you know you're going to be naturally introduced to other vices at that point in your life.
Yeah.
If you can throw in something like floating into your routine,
Right.
I think you will be less reliant on those other vices, and then find this as obviously a way healthier remedy.
For sure, yeah. And just like the information that's so accessible to everybody right
Yes.
now, it bombards you, right, with a fucking ton of shit, but it also opens up your awareness to a ton of shit, right?
Right.
So you know, just like even though it's a problem, it's also a solution, right?
Right.
And again, that perspective is definitely a result of floating, right? Where you can step back and observe it and see the polarity of it and not really attach a bunch of emotion or fucking judgment to it, right?
Right.
Let that ego just dissolve. So, yeah.
Makes sense. So, you're,
Yeah, man. Put your ash out, man.
we worked at a brewery in Columbia, Missouri for too long. Like, I can do 7 different types of hippie character. Like,
Right.
it's not even like, and especially, doing what you're doing now. That's something funny, and we'll get Chris out of here in a second. But I love first of all, I love how everyone's different, but everybody's the same.
Right.
Like, get over it.
I think
My thing
I think the reason why you, and I know you respect and appreciate marijuana, but I think one of the reasons why I think for maybe a while you didn't care for marijuana because you didn't care for the people who smoked.
Yeah, get your fucking Sublime shirt
Right,
out of
there
here.
you go.
And don't be mad at me because I like basketball. Like, whenever I was a kid, like, that's what it was.
Right,
where you're
that makes
"Oh, I smoke,"
sense.
And then all of a sudden you start realizing normal people smoke.
Right.
You know,
But I
people
think
that you
that's-
respect
I think
smoke. And
honestly
you're like,
that's why I think
I don't
people-
care. Yeah.
No, and I think that's why I think I wouldn't say, and because obviously a lot more states are becoming more legal with it, but I think that
I don't
actually
think
is
it's
the
full.
reason a lot of folks are reticent to
For sure.
fully come over to the marijuana side of the conversation
was-
because I think there are some terrible bad stoners
Well,
out there in the sense like they really are very unbecoming of the
It was
proper
a
way
fringe.
to appreciate marijuana.
It was a fringe hobby too.
It was
I mean, you
very
think that-
fringe.
and
It
again,
was very
too,
for a
I'll
long
say
time.
this
For people our age.
For our age,
Correct,
right.
correct. And think about people 20 years older than us
Right,
too.
right,
It's
and
like,
older
oh, some
people.
dirty hippie,
Right.
you know.
Right,
But
right.
at the same time, and I don't know, is marijuana allowed on your plan?
No,
Exactly.
no,
That's what I'm saying.
I'm straight edge.
My
babe.
thing, yeah, and that's the thing.
Right.
Totally fine if you want to. It ain't for everybody either, though. It
Right.
isn't medicine to the degree that it's put out.
Right.
Trust me, I can tell if most people are high. And if I can tell, that means there's some alteration going on. You'll act a certain way. I'm not saying it's the worst thing in the world, but let's not always call it this cure-all of sorts.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it all day, man, responsibly,
I think
do whatever you wanna
anything
do.
in moderation is healthy.
For sure.
Right? I mean, I unfortunately lack the, I don't have the fucking off button when it comes to substance, right? Or other, other things that that are release dope in my brain. I like to do that again and again and again and again and again, right? So there's
a path. I'm just not going to go down it. I was like, we could have another half-hour conversation about where I think your brain would go on some of those things.
Well, let's do it.
I don't. Yeah, it gets weird when you start talking about sex and where things take you with it's funny. I don't know.
My therapist right now says I can't have sex for 30 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to chill out.
Let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my therapist put me on that same plan.
Right.
My therapist got me on
6 months.
that 6 month plan. Yeah, man.
Is your therapist your wife?
My therapist is my dating profile. Like, yeah, we're just not going to let you do anything.
Take some time here. No, it's funny where that stuff goes. No, I always laughed about this. And this you can say with this black people, white people, different, whatever. I loved at the brewery we worked at. So a brewery was perfect.
What brewery was it?
Flat Branch in Columbia, Missouri.
Okay, right.
So it's first off, it's a little different. It wasn't as mainstream as it is now. But at the same time, it was a meeting place of hipster kids thought it was cool to work there. Frat kids are abundant, and they would come together. I loved watching them have the preconceived notions of each other, and then like the first after shift party when they like shared a joint or like, oh, you like whiskey too?
Right.
All of a sudden,
oh man, you got a Bob Marley poster in your room.
Weird, man. I thought he was different. I always loved that. I always loved the mixing of the two. And then I also loved, and I'm picking on him a little bit here, but when like hipster types would essentially do what they say they hated athlete or like preppy types.
Sure.
They would ostracize and team up against it. If there would be 5 like hipster types and like somebody with like maybe they perceive to be a frat type person, they start like making fun of them, kind of picking on them, and all those things.
Got picked on by the hippies.
Never, not once.
Hippies picked on.
But at the same, I just loved it. I'm like, isn't this what you guys say you hated those jocks for in high school? Like that's the same thing. That was my favorite. Just.
Well, how does that relate to sex?
No, I was just saying with sex, with the type of personality, if you do things to the max, you're going to be a busy bee if you're out there meeting people.
I'll tell you, it's like, I chase it, right? And I
that's
find it's gambling.
I knew it. I knew it.
It doesn't matter. It's gambling, it's tattoos, it's fucking riding motorcycles real fast.
Yeah.
It's jumping out of planes, right? It doesn't matter, right? If I could get a rush
relaxing really hard in my float tank.
Right. And I mean, that's involved with it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it is because you're going to find those levels.
You get a dope release, right, from floating. You will feel very, very good afterwards.
He doesn't just like drugs.
Yeah, it's not like we feed you pot, right? Or dope or whatever you want to call it.
Or do that.
But you get a hit of serotonin and dope that gets released, and it's been studied and it's been, proven, and I can fully attest. I like the way I feel. I like that feeling, right? And I remember when I did it the first time, I said, fuck, I got to do this again.
Right.
And,
Same here.
Let me go open up my own float center, right?
That's right.
So that's the true reason, everybody. I'm just a drug addict.
Go high five, Chris. Say hi to him at Presence Float Center. Chris, plug your social, man. How do people come check out Float Center and check it out online?
Get online, presencefloatcenter.com. And you can get us at Facebook. You get us on Instagram. I've got a Twitter feed, but I don't do much on the Twitter. Come in, say hello, give us a call. Phone number is 636-220-6327. Stop by. If you're curious, curiosity
couldn't be more inviting either.
And we make it that way, right? And
great staff.
Shout
out to your staff.
This is for everyone. This is not just a certain type of person that needs this. Everybody will benefit from it. So if you're curious, come by and check it out. And we'll show you the pods and we'll show you the space. And I'm 100% confident that you'll want to try it out. And I know the way you're going to feel afterwards. So
thanks for coming by our Totally Raw pod.
WAL.
$10 off. Check it out. Presence Float Center. We're out.
We are live. We're out.